Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. And hey, we're close to on time tonight. How about that? Crazy to believe, but yet here we are. So, joining me as always, it's of course my own story in the making. It's Tom. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, friends. How's it going?
So, also joining us tonight, we are very happy to have him back on the show. It's Mr. StoneMonk Gamer. Eric, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing fantastic and excited to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
We are excited to have you, buddy, and we missed you at Adepticon. We made fun of you before we went live. I feel it's only appropriate that we chastise you publicly for not showing up to the convention.
I was at the other Adepticon.
Oh, you went to the other one.
The bigger one that had more people.
I don't think that's true. You must have been. Were you just hanging out at a 7-Eleven and thinking that was Adepticon?
I mean, there was a couple of lights out in the sign. Could have been something else.
Sure. I mean, it's easily possible. You got to watch out for that. Okay. Well, next year we'll make sure to get you the exact address so we don't get confusion again.
They should put that on the website.
Yeah, no problem. We'll get you taken care of. But sir, we're glad to have you back on the show. And tonight we're going to be discussing narrative events, sort of in general, but also specifically one very large narrative event coming up here in the not too distant future.
Raw 2017.
That's
wait. Realm Hoppers 2018.
Also another one that's coming, but not the one we're talking about.
Coalescence.
There it is. There it is. You got it, sir. You see, it can easily. You can see how the confusion can easily happen. So you understand why you should.
There's just so many narrative events.
Because all narrative events are alike.
I think that is something we'll clearly dispel tonight for sure when we talk about them, because I think that is probably. We'll save it for the longer discussion. But yes, I think that is the.
Let's get through the surface level stuff first.
Exactly. Let's get through the stuff. Tommy, take us into the news, buddy. What do we got this week?
Well, the obviously the big immediate news is that Khorne is coming. I can't say he has arrived because, well, Saturday is that magical bloody day. It looks like we have the full battle tome on the way. A bunch of the pages have leaked. We have like 800 battalions, which is great for Khorne players. There's some sweet new items. Have you guys seen any of the leaks that have dropped?
Yes, I have. I saw them. And, ultimately my feeling on them is I didn't notice anything that big a change like in the points or anything like that. I mean, there's a couple changes, but I didn't find any of them.
Reavers went up to 70.
Right.
Choreographs went up to 100.
Yeah.
But they changed with changes to the war scrolls, and I think that's the more important thing here. There's actually changes to the core war scrolls that a lot of people haven't noticed, or some people have, but they haven't made as big of a deal about it as they probably should have.
Okay.
The Reavers they gained 10 points, but they picked up a save. Like, they're 6 up now.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah.
That's a huge difference. I mean, it sounds stupid, but the ability to not be able to get a save is so big, right?
Yeah. And the other rumor or the other like leaked page that I saw was I saw it on TGA. They were talking about it, about the choreograph's points going up, or not points. The choreograph's damage goes up to 2. And he picked up the bloodbound keyword in his profile as well.
Oh, that's cool.
So potentially, like, he would qualify for those units. So. Right. Interesting stuff. So they had points that went up, but those points seem to have been well earned, is what I would say. And I really hope that we'll get small tweaks like that moving forward to a number of war scrolls. We saw some with the Stormcast, and now we're seeing a little bit with Khorne.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be picking up this tome for sure. Like, I have a big, female demon Khorne army.
Yeah.
And I've been looking for something that would make blood crushers not suck. Like, I've always loved blood crushers. I have a whole host of converted blood crushers. I actually stopped making them because I made like my Skull Taker conversion and like 6 others, and I was like, oh, these just aren't that good. But I have like 9 more Juggernaut bodies and stuff ready to go.
Sure.
So and they're actually fast. But it's just like so I'm hoping there's some good blood crusher formations in there, which it looks like there are. So maybe that'll give me a reason to get those back out. I'm excited for that.
There's some sweet new items that are dropping too. There's one like I think it's the collar maybe that it lets you like dispel one spell, no range, 100% once per game.
Oh, nice. So
that's kind of
spell scroll without range.
Yeah, exactly. So like it's that good like you need to shut down that spell.
Sure.
Yeah. So just
one of the tithes does that too, maybe.
One of the tithes does, yeah. They like maybe cost 3 blood points, 3 blood points, something like that.
Which I think
so you got to kill a couple units.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the tithing thing. I feel like that's going to bring a ton of flavor and character to the army. I think it's going to bring a ton of decision making. To spending that. As of right now, I mean, my brain doesn't tend to unlock the efficiencies that quickly. But to kill a bunch of your own stuff or the opponent's stuff in order to get tithe points. When do you spend it? How quickly can you spend it? Should you wait? That sort of stuff. I think decisions are always fun, especially for Khorne guys who are usually just, they make a decision to kill and that's it.
Right.
Now they got to
just run forward. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. So one thing that I think that it'll incentivize a number of smaller units, I suspect.
Yeah.
To sacrifice, to kind of send stuff forward and sacrifice.
Sure.
Call MSUs and kill them and then get some points.
Which is fine. I like that idea for Khorne too, right? Because a bunch of like bands of bloodthirsty, raving lunatics running around the board feels pretty appropriate for Khorne, I would say.
Sure.
One thing I mentioned to you, Tom, we were talking about the blood tithe, Eric. Like both of the chaos special rules, or sort of army form, I don't know what you want to call it, sub-faction rules, whatever, are currencies. Right. They're things that you spend and can exhaust and potentially make back or earn, right, in some way. For Tzeentch being the fate die, for Khorne being the blood tithe. Now, I know 2 isn't enough to like draw a real line, but since we love tinfoil hatting on this show, compare that to like the Stormcast, who got just a sort of always thing, right? It just, you can teleport your units. That's just the way this works. Do you think all of the Chaos Gods will have an exhaustible currency as their special ability, like as a means of capturing the exhaustible / fickle nature of chaos?
I hope not.
Like, do you think that's why they're doing that? Or is it just accidental?
Well, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm pretty allergic to speculation. Just
you're on the wrong
show.
No, I know. You see my tweet. I thought I'd put in my tweet beforehand that I get to argue some of this. I mean, there's a couple of mechanics. One's using the dice. One is using model death. So I'm sure there's ways to spread it around. Nurgle could be, gosh, I don't know, like how many times you don't die. You get to do something. I don't know.
Nurgle's going to have like infections, blessed infections, or blessed diseases. Like it's going to be that kind of thing, and you have to spread it, and it builds it, and you spend your tokens to disease other units and crap like that. Like that would be an easy grab.
All right, you went from could it have a currency to a very specific idea of what that currency would be.
Sure.
Wrong. You're going to be wrong. You're going to be wrong.
Well, I suspect you're probably right. I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm saying that's an easy one you could write. Like it wouldn't be hard.
Sure.
I'm sure you could think up 4 other ideas for Nurgle in the next 20 minutes. But
then you'd be like, I don't want to touch that unit. I think that's kind of a fun mechanic.
Yeah, exactly. You could stack infections up, and then when other units attack them, they gain the infections and get vector diseases around and stuff. It'd be fun.
What would Slaanesh do then?
Just it's gonna be all sexiness tokens all the way down, buddy.
So I'm gonna push back on that because
sure,
like we saw the blood tide. This is coming from 40K's like Khorne can or Demon can or whatever.
Yeah,
like they have
similar to the
like so that we're porting in a mechanic with the Khorne, and we saw the Tzeentch Destiny dice being tested with Warhammer Quest.
Mm-hmm.
So
sort of, yes.
Like if you're drawing lines, So to me, that suggests that this may not be like a function of the chaos, like factions completely, and this may just be like how those other systems function that they've drawn it into the book. I don't know. I'm not ready to jump on that train yet.
I'm jumping on.
Some hint of something.
Yeah, I'm on board. I want to see it happen.
And then I think whatever happens with Slaanesh is probably going to come out in both systems at the same time.
Sure.
So no preview.
Maybe
Full on to the face.
I like it. All right, well, let's move on. What else do we have for news?
So the rumor engine that dropped today, that's a significant new leak, Vince, or preview. Do you have that image that you can pull up?
Absolutely, I can bring that up. Give me just one moment. Keep talking about it while we're on.
I'm gonna blow your minds with my ideas.
It looks like a shell, kind of.
What?
What? Could it be the long rumored fishman?
No,
Vince.
No, it could not.
But they've been talking about it so much. Come on, where's my image? There it is.
Shut your face. There it is. You see that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. StoneMonk. Hit it.
Not fishmen,
right?
But underwater beastmen.
Sure.
That's like could be a horn, or we could have like shark gores and octogores, and that's where it's going right there, guys.
I dig it. I dig
beastmen from the deep.
So I'm going to push back and suggest that I think what we're actually looking at is 40K. And I think that we may be looking at something Tyranid related, maybe.
My only pushback on that is the Tyranid. While the Tyranids have like the carapaces and they like some of that ribbing.
And the Nautilus ships?
They have Nautilus ships, yeah.
They do have Nautilus ships? Okay. Just none of their models. So what you're saying is Battlefleet Gothic?
Maybe. So what I would say is this. I think that it's probably 40K. I think that it's either that or it's some terrain piece. Like it's some weird, like we had Death Forest release. Like if you had seen a little snapshot of Death Forest, you would never guess that's like what it was. You know, it was just this weird alien thing.
Because there's not a reference for it.
Right. So this could be some weird alien fauna. We've had so much seemingly AOS material previewed. I have to think that this might be 40K. Now, that said, the other low-hanging fruit would be deep elves, like the Cthulhu deep elves, seafaring stuff. And I could see that potentially, like with all the City of Secrets book or whatever it was called. Like they had like the inky blackness Leviathan eye that summoned the one Scourge privateer captain and yada. Like so they're really kind of teasing that up and prepping that engine with Shadows of Hammerhall, and so I could see them potentially doing a refresh of those. So
I would just like to point out something fun for our audience, for longtime viewers, regular viewers of this show. That every single image that gets spoiled,
yes,
Tom thinks is an AOS thing, regardless of what it is. And then the first thing that actually aligns with an AOS rumor, he's like, nope, 40K. I'm out. This one's too easy. I greatly enjoy that, Tom. Your capricious nature.
You're welcome. I have to mix things up because I want to engage our viewers.
He's got to pretend. He's got to pretend to be not predictable.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, Ratface. To your question, I'm suggesting the Dark Elf Corsairs.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is totally the Cthulhuid Dark Elves. We've had rumors of it. It's clearly a sea-oriented thing. It looks like a little Nautilus. It's fairly zoomed in. You can tell by the depth of it.
Could be like armor, or it could be a variety of different things.
Sure. Shoulder pad.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd buy this as like on some of them. On some of the Dark Elf Cthulhuid dudes, they have these seashell shoulder pads. Boy, seashell shoulder pads is going to be a fun thing to say. I just now realized that.
Think about the iridescent colors, like the pinks, the fleshy pinks that you could paint those, Vince.
Sure, it'd be sweet. I wouldn't do it, but yeah, it'd be sweet. 'Cause I'm not painting dark elves. All right.
And then rumor. These are still rumors, but they're saying that the Kharadron are going to go on pre-order on the 15th, and that the prices are sitting at. I actually didn't pull this up.
So it was okay. It
was like 115. Oh, do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
115 for the big ship, the Ironclad or whatever. It was 60 for the hauler, the smallest ship. The infantry packs were all 50.
It was 90 for the middle ship.
Yeah, there you go, 90 for the middle ship. So, like the 3 balloon dudes are 50, and the 5, I don't know what you call them, gunner dudes. I know we've spoiled other names. I just can't remember them.
The Thunderers. They were Thunderers.
Okay, the 5 gunner dudes are 50, and the 10, sort of like boarding crew are 50. Was sort of the idea, right?
Yeah, like so basically the ships were at like 115 or something, 90, 60.
Right. This is all in USD, by the way.
All in US. All of the other boxes for soldiers were 50, and the characters were 40, is what the rumor was. For a nice spread of like all of the models, like I did the math, and it was going to come out to like just around 800 or so, or almost 900, I think. And with the 25% discount, like if you like pre-ordered it through a number of the different retailers, like you might be able to hit like just under 700 for like a sampling.
What are you basing that on to get what? Like, because you don't know the points, right?
No. Yeah. So like I'm thinking about like in a lot of the orders, like if you wanted a spread, you'd get like 1 of each ship, you'd get your characters, and then you'd probably get like 2 of each box. And that's most like, if like you wanted like representative units of like, like a middling without any SKU lists or any heavy on anything. You'll probably, if you did that, then you'd have like 2 of the boarding crew. And also that's also based on the battle report. So the numbers that were fielded in the battle report in about a 2,000 point game, the White Dwarf was similar numbers of things, like 20 dudes on foot, 2 of the ships. And so it would give you some flexibility to 2,000 point game to build. So that's where my rough estimate was, which, I mean, it prices it around what it was going to cost for Fire Slayers.
Sure.
So
I'm personally hoping we get some kind of army box there as opposed to just all the individual kits. I'm hoping they learned the lesson of the Fire Slayers and have some army boxes out there, or at least follow some quickly on the heels.
Yeah, if nothing else, just like, I'm not talking getting started, because they're clearly not going to do getting started with something like that.
Agreed.
But like, or even a Battle Force, because the Battle Force boxes themselves were like 40 to 50% discounts, and that's not what they were mostly like 35%. But I'm actually talking about something that's like the King Valescue's, force, like the named character.
Chaos or Lord Heldrath, his thing.
Yes, like some named kind of box, which is Battle Box-esque, maybe only a 20% discount on the models or something.
Right.
Like, I could see something like that, I think. Like something like Lord Admiral's fleet, Lord Admiral Stinky Toots fleet or something. Like,
yeah. Well, you got to watch out for old Stinky Toots.
Everybody watches out for Stinky Toots.
Yeah, he fills the skies.
Well, the problem is he wants to sail on the lead ship, and that's always a problem because you're always downwind from Stinky Toots. That's his catchphrase. All right, so StoneMonk, what do you think? We haven't got to talk to you about the Overlords yet. What's your feeling on them right now?
Oh my gosh, they're amazing. I had tweeted out earlier. I mean, when they first came out, obviously hit or miss in people's radar, and I tweeted out the idea that it's not a new concept, but that they're going to be successful if they put out stuff that not everybody likes, but some people just love.
Right.
And this is nobody was expecting it, and it took what we thought could be possible in AOS and stretched those boundaries, which I think is a feat in of itself, because they've already, from living bird bridges to, rats tunneling through, magically portal, whatever, like they're already stretching our brains. So to be able to stretch it further from the norm is fantastic. And they need to keep doing that at least once a year. They've got to stretch their own boundaries of AOS and surprise us. That's something that we need to keep interested. And so I think they did it. And I'm excited to locally, I know at least 5 people that are picking these up. And so I'm trying to figure out how the frick I'm going to shoot things out of the air now. So no, I mean, it makes me want to see more things. Like they've hinted at a couple other races that would have flying things to, grots and
Iron Jaws.
Yeah, and maybe some elves, and maybe Skaven have to have something up in the air at some point, right? I mean, it just feels like it could be a fun new part of the game to stretch our imagination. So,
well, on the White Dwarf, they actually alluded to the fact that they said, as they began designing stuff for the dwarves, they realized like there was just the hard part was actually stopping themselves and developing like too broadly, for this small kind of sub faction, the sub race. And so they said, like they ended the White Dwarf article with, it was just so much fun. It's like a whole new world to explore. Like there's just so much more that we could do. ... And that's how they end the article.
Yeah, I mean, for a big wide open game, there isn't as much that is in the air as you would expect, right? I mean, some things fly for sure, but not much stays up in the air and just kind of fills up that upper, the vertical part of your mind aesthetically. And so this starts doing that for us for sure.
Which is fantastic. Like, yeah, I was fairly negative on him early on, and I think it's an expectations thing. I was the same thing with the Iron Jaws, of just like what I wanted to see versus what actually was. It is the truly, this call to a TED Talk, but this is, it's the dark side of the subjunctive, of like the woulda, coulda, shoulda. And I think that's one of the things that I've tried to kind of reel in with this release. Initially, I was very negative, but the reality is like I asked for it, and this is AOS, and so like this is what like is this what you want? Like this is what they deliver.
You wanted?
They will mess with your brain if you let them.
Yeah, like
they're
Thunderers.
going to.
They're like, you want Thunderers? Here, have some Thunderers. Like machine guns and like carrying around organ guns and deck sweepers and done.
Now, I do want to address too, like, so I know when I first saw them, and I think everybody did, and when it happened to the Iron Jaws and everyone said, oh, those look like 40K orcs. I was like, what? Huh? No, I can tell the difference. These do not look like the historical squats. Absolutely. I mean, I've seen pictures of them from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it was, 20. They look like, dirty, fat little guys in tank tops and carrying guns.
Well, historical squats, these guys look more 40K than historical squats.
That's what I was saying, is that you look at these guys, I mean, they're in armor, they've got backpacks, they've got guns. What I like is that kind of like, let's not worry about like blending the systems, because I think that's just going to bring more cross pollination. And I mean, we're all looking at the Armageddon terrain and being like, hey, that's going to be KO, that's your airports right there.
I have a box, honestly, like Shadow War box on the way, and it is designated as my Kharadron Overlord board.
And feel no shame of that. None.
So, sorry, all of you 40K players that are trying to get those boxes to play Necromunda. Nope, I need my Kharadron Overlord terrain on the cheap, and so you can look for those armies in that book on eBay next week.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the take, I agree with you. I think the distinction of something looks too or not enough 40K is wrong-headed. Yep. I think that judge the thing on its own. Is it a compelling idea? Blah blah blah. Like, let's say it is. Let's say it does look exactly like something out of 40K. So what?
No,
is that I don't find that to carry any normative value in and of itself, right? So, to me, it's more of, is the release actually compelling? So,
and obviously, all of us at this table, as people who like to convert models, everything is raw material.
Right, sure.
So whatever it is, it can become whatever we want it to, anyway. So,
I mean, if they don't give me flying Skaven, eventually I'll just buy some of these dwarven ships and man them with rats, because look, guys, I know you dwarves thought you could get away from us just by getting up into the skies. You were wrong. Okay. Do you know what happens with every ship ever? It gets rats on it. That's all I'm saying.
It's so funny because you look at these dwarves and like go look at Ikit Claw and look. It looks like they straight jacked Ikit Claw's technology. The dwarves did, like with like the power weapon stuff and like the hand, and like one of the heroes literally looks like they're like, oh, looted Ikit's body.
Sure. Look, Ikit Claw is in like Mark .05 power armor. Okay, so he always, I'm fine with it. All right. So what else do we have in news? Let's keep popping.
We got important things to talk about.
We do have important things. The AOS broadcast, the Heat 2 is dropping this weekend for the Warhammer World Grand GT thing. So that's happening, right?
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to be very interested to see what armies show up, because obviously last time it was interesting and there was a large amount of sort of, Tomb King's representation and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see what shows up this time.
Agreed. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like, see how many 18 Skyfire lists show up. That's what I want to know.
I'm willing to bet at least one. Let me say that there's going to be somebody there with that many Skyfires. Yeah.
It'll be like Caleb Walters crossed out. Whatever their name is Skyfire list is what you'll end up seeing, or like a Adepticon list, like they did Rustveal.
I have heard. I'm going to make one critique. Yep. I have heard a few people that already got their invites, or in Heat 1 already, passed the bar or whatever.
Yeah,
coming to play at Heat 2, and I hope that they're coming to have fun games rather than to compete. Because I think that's a little rude to take the spot from other competitors at this point.
To weed out, like to narrow the actual field come October or whenever the actual finals are. Yeah, that's pretty rude.
So I mean, I don't think they shouldn't be able to go, but I hope they aren't trying to podium.
Or just I hope what it is that like if it's the top, like let's say it's how it's the top, how many people is it? Top 3, 5? Do we know?
I don't know.
I don't remember what the number is.
I would just hope that they just pull them out. Like, even if they win the whole thing, like, you just go down the ranking farther. If they already have an invite, you invite other people. Mm-hmm. Which I'm sure GW do that. So they're sharp enough.
Right.
Other news. Blood Bowl made to order dropping April 8th. So the old Blood Bowl mini's coming. Some Chaos Dwarf big hats. Gonna finally see the table again. Mass production.
Yeah, this one shocked me. Some of the models that they're re-trotting out here. Oh boy.
So this raises the question: do you really think that we might see some more big hats someday, like like a true Chaos Dwarf like metal release?
No, like you're saying,
like
if they return to that aesthetic, sure.
No, like a made-to-order Chaos Dwarf release.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
like
sure.
Like we've had that with Sisters, or we've had that with other stuff. It just don't like I never thought about the possibility that we may actually see like a real true Chaos Dwarf return, not like a Forge World Legion of Asgore.
I'm of the belief that everyone who played Games Workshop in this era was blind. I don't see any aesthetic value in any of the stuff other than the campiness. I mean, I get the campiness.
What about Slambo? You gonna trash Slambo?
The updated version is pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
I like to make fun of the metalheads. So
Slambo.
There he is. Look at him. He's great. No, I tend to agree with you, StoneMonk. I'm in general not a fan of any of those. I remember looking at most things then and thinking, because I mean I was playing not basically during this time period, a little bit later than that, like 97, and I remember looking at a lot of stuff and thinking, that stuff looks stupid. Like that does not look like that. Yeah.
I suppose though, everyone who bought those before us paved the way for what we have now, right?
Yes, and certainly it's exactly the same thing, right? Because there are people who deeply love that. Jeff Egan being one of those. He loves that 90s style. It's what you were talking about at the top, right? Of like, it's not about having a few things. It's not about having a bunch of things that people just like. It's about having a few things that people crazy love.
Yeah.
And, when that happens, you're going to have other people who are just like, meh, you didn't hit it for me. But, that's how it is, right?
Absolutely.
So Yeah, I say bring them, wheel them all back in, man. Bring back the big hats on made to order. They would move some metal, buddy. I tell you what, holy crap! Fire up the forges, okay? Because it's time to run them 24/7. They would blow the doors off of that one. People love those old Babylonian hat dudes.
Yep, they do. They do.
The other piece of news I know we didn't talk about before the show, but the new Demon Prince, the Forge World new Demon Prince,
the Mirazer, what's his name?
Yeah, he got spoiled. Like we saw him a while back at one of the Forge World Open days or whatever.
Yep,
looks good. I mean, it's funny because there's so many like Khorne models just floating around in Forge World, like half done, right? That have just been being worked on forever, and then they're just gonna kind of trot out randomly.
I don't know.
That big dragon's gonna drop sometime. We've seen him like twice now in the past year.
Maybe it'll be another year and a half. Who knows?
Sure.
Like it's I don't know. Yeah, it's okay.
Sure. I mean, he's a good looking demon prince. I'm always happy to see more big demons, but that was how I felt about it. I saw him and I was like, oh, it's neat. Next.
Yep.
It didn't. There was no part of me that was like, I should order this thing. It just didn't.
Yeah, I'm just not a big Khorne fan, I think, is the problem. Like, yeah.
Go ahead. What were you going to say, Eric?
The only Forge World model I have ever bought was Skaven Warlord on Brood Horror. But that's because I was at Warhammer World and needed to buy something to bring home, to send home.
Sure.
And like that I couldn't get anywhere else easily. Mm-hmm. And there's just not a lot of Forge World that speaks to me personally. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm so spoiled on the plastic. I'm just a spoiled little brat who doesn't appreciate the finer things in life. So I'll stop whining about it. I've got nothing good to say, so I shouldn't say anything.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I got me a sale, and I love that man. Thank you, Vince.
You're welcome.
And
I didn't buy anything for me when I was at Warhammer World. I just bought something for Tom.
Taking care of your buddy.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. Most of the people at Holy Wars and also at Adepticon, I am sure are thanking you for sale.
I mean, you took him to the top. Vince.
I did take him. Yeah,
no,
you did,
so
Vince.
Vince
carried
topped you.
Yeah. He sailed me. Sailed me to that.
Sail away, sail away, sail away.
I've bought a bunch, and it's funny. Like, I've ended up selling a bunch. Like, all of the other Forge World stuff that I've bought that I was going to paint are actually part of the armies that I've all liquidated in recent months. Like my Chaos Dwarves, my Night Goblins. All those had sealed Forge World stuff in them, and I'm like, whoop. So I haven't actually gotten to paint a lot of Forge World stuff. It's kind of disappointing, all things considered.
Well, as long as you're not painting Forge World Nurgle, it's fine. That's the only thing you should stay away from.
There's just something about those sculpts.
They're bumpy.
Yeah. Like I've looked at the Bile Trolls and I've looked at the toads, like the plague toads, and
they're bumpy.
I wanted to get into them. Like I did, and then I was like, nope, I'm gonna buy Troggoths. Like, I'm not buying the Bile Trolls. I'm gonna go pick up the Troggoths and just convert them. Because, sorry, Forge World.
I like the rules. I hate the models. I like some of those rules. Some of those Nurgle models.
I don't know. Have you seen the rules for Tamerkin?
Sure. I didn't say all. I said some.
The tail on that toad dragon is amazing, though.
The tail is serious business.
All right. So, do we have any other news to address?
The sold out 40K Necromunda box, the Shadow War. We talked about. I was just going to mention that that is gold right now. If you can, it's sold out.
Sold out everywhere, but confirmed that they're going to run more. That there's going to be another.
Well,
run, right?
Yeah, they're going to have books available. They said, and the terrain's going to be available through the website in the coming weeks. But there's another piece of actual news that I saw. Hold on just a minute. That reminded me. Trying to remember where I saw that. It was
breaking news.
No, I just saw it and I forgot to add it to the news. It was a piece of like, it was maybe on the GW. It was on one of the pages, and it said like coming in April and May, and it had 5 terrain kits and only 3 of them that we had seen, and the other 2 were just more like industrial style terrain kits that were coming in May. So we have 2 more industrial terrain kits coming in May. If I can find the image, I'll pull that up for us.
I think I heard that too. There's more kits going to be available individually than are contained inside of that box. Yeah.
And so that it's selling real well. The long and the short of it is that it's selling real well, and we can celebrate that. But that also means that if you can find it at your local store, do so, because it will not be around long for this world. The official community statement said that there'll be stores and copies this weekend. They have some good news. They said they'll be making the rules available for the game more widely available soon. And they're going to be developing, he said, we'll bring news on exactly how and when you'll be able to get a hold of the rules outside of the box and the new factions as soon as we can. So they're going to be doing new factions as well. Yeah. But they didn't say, like, we have another box coming soon. So,
I think given how popular it is, we'll probably see another release of it.
Sure, but it could be 3 months. It could be 6 months. Before
I would doubt that long, but yes, there could be time.
Yeah.
They like their production cycle for already made stuff. They can spin faster than that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, they did that with the Spire of Dawn, but it was probably a couple weeks, a month.
Yeah. Yes. You're definitely talking about that length of time. If they wanted to, if they had no intention of remaking it and they gave the order today. Yes. I saw in the comments people were discussing the different aesthetic. You are correct. Forge World has different sculptors, different people make those models, and they use often a different process as well. Yeah. So yes, there's a large reason why you can get a different aesthetic out of Forge World. Okay, so let's turn. Do we have any other news? That's it, right?
That's it.
All right, then let's turn to some pick of the week. So this is gonna. I know, Mr. StoneMonk, you have already sent me your link. So I have it. Would you like to, and basically, would you like to explain what it is? I will include his link down in the show notes. Of course.
Yeah, I thought I'd be proactive and send some stuff to you. I've got. Can I give both out?
Yeah, man. I'll put them both down there. Yeah.
Cool. So the first one is these are both Bitly links, just because it's easy to create them for stuff. The first one is bit.ly/Coalescence 2017, and that will take you to the registration form if you're interested in becoming a Neo, which is a narrative event organizer. First time, if you've never done it before, this is a great chance to just get you and some friends together, or get 10 people at a local game store, or do what Tom's doing and get big support and try and hit a good size event. And so it's just a place to raise your hand and say, hey, I'm interested. There's really no beyond that. It's we want to, anyway, we'll talk more about it. The second one is part of the support that you get from that. And that is bit.ly/Coalescence blog. And that is a blog on the TGA forums that you can find by going to the blog section. And that's where a group of Neos that are kind of putting energy and time into this event are just trying to disseminate some knowledge so that you can start doing that, if again, planning and thinking about how your venue, what you're going to do to register players, and then promoting it, etc. Some more of that information coming out this next week. So those are the two links. They're just all I care about right now.
Here's what I'll say about that. I love the second one, which is the big, the sort of blog around the Coalescence event. What I love about this is this is one of the things that I kind of brought up that I think needs to be out there in broader supply, actually, from Games Workshop. And I'm glad to see the community taking the initiative and creating this, because it's like you want to be a Neo starter pack, right? And I'd love to see the same thing for like running a match play tournament and doing this and running that, just starter packs for like, this is the information you would need to do this. And so it's great. It talks about and so, your blog just really covers, or not yours, but you know what I mean? The blog that you have referenced us to. It just really covers like so much good stuff. Like, because it's a thing of like how to write an event pack. Okay, well, you're writing an event for a narrative event. That's going to be something that you may have no idea about at all if you've never done this before, right? And so I love that it gives the directions, kind of walks you through. It's very straightforward how it's written. It's not like you must do this and you must do this and you must do this, right? That's not what it's about, because that would be kind of outside of the spirit of that. It's more like, here's the very basic essentials. Here's kind of the other stuff, that kind of thing. Some optional stuff, some additional things you can do, that kind of stuff.
And trying to demystify it,
Right.
Yep.
We've got a lot of amazing TOs, and like any other community, the people who are quickest, quick-witted, confident, able to just say, hey, I'm going to go tackle this thing over here, create stuff and get it out there. And in this case, running an event, there's some people that are just going to be natural at it. Others that want to, but some people will go out and ask somebody else for help on that. And other people will be like, I'll just not, I'll think about it another time. So this is just a one thing to help get people maybe who've wanted to do it off the computer and off the wish listing and just make it happen.
Yep. So both of those links will be down in the show notes once we're off the air. So check it out. All right. Tommy, what about you, sir? What do you got for a pick this week?
So I'm going to choose a podcast. I don't know how widely published they are. It's an American Midwestern podcast. It's
not many people listen to us. No,
not you. The T3 podcast with Stephen Thompson, Michelle Thompson, and Sean Troy. I don't know if you guys are aware. I don't know if either of you listen to their T3 podcast, but I've caught up with some of their shows recently, and I've just really enjoyed their analysis. Sean is an excellent player. He's won, I think, all of the Holy events, like all of them for best overall. And he won like the one day in the grand tournament. He just played on Saturday and won best overall for that. So, I mean, Sean's a really good player. And he has some great kind of tactical analysis and advice. And he, recent stuff he was talking about, I listened to like their Holy Wars coverage. And then I think they also did they recently did a Holy Havoc, not Holy War. They did an ACON 2017 discussion as well as part of their Holy Wars recap. And it was good. It was an enjoyable kind of just foray romp through the discussion. And so I'd highly recommend it.
There you go. All right. I have 2 picks of the week this week because I am a cheater. Pick number 1. Pick the first. You just mentioned it. Holy Havoc. Holy Havoc signups open up this Friday at, remember everyone, 7:05 p.m.
So you going to do that for us, Vince?
Yeah, I'll take care of it. No, it's legitimately 7 p.m. I like to say 7:05 to buy Tom and I some extra time because there is, of course, limited space available. So
I think they said only 32 people. No, it was, how many people was it? It was not a lot.
It's only like 16 tables.
Yeah, 16 teams.
No, it was 32 people. It was only 8 tables, right? Because it was 32, which is 16 teams. 16 teams is only 8 tables.
Sure. It's a small number.
Yes.
So
it's going to be a tight.
Fast.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you guys want an idea of what the Holy events look like, especially like the Holy Havoc, my TGA blog, I did full coverage of both Holy Havoc and Holy Wars this last year.
Whoa, we're past your pick of the week, buddy. This isn't the time to be pimping your own stuff.
I am just simply supporting your point.
Okay, sure. No, yes, absolutely. Tom has a good write-up on his blog about it. But also, you can go to the link down below that I'll include, and it has all the tournament rules and stuff as they currently stand, and kind of we'll walk you through the Holy Havoc event, which is still a ways off. It's in November, but, hey, there you go.
But sign up is this week, and you need to sign up if you want to go.
Week.
Because even if you don't get in, you can get waitlisted with you and your teammate.
And there's usually a couple switches around.
Yep.
Pick the second is a fun one. Since we're talking about narrative today and more experimental and fun things and making the game your own, there's a wonderful little blog called High Fleet Charybdis, okay? And they have
I like where this is going.
Sure. They have a collection of war scrolls that takes every 40k army and puts it into Age of Sigmar. Like straight. Doesn't like straight no chaser. Okay. Does not like the weapons are the weapons and stuff like that. Like people run around, it's bolters and it's everything else. It's the whole real deal. It's just all ported over to have AOS rules and AOS data sheets and stuff. War scrolls instead of data sheets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's cool. Like they've done everything. Like they've got, most of them have some amount of versions with updates. You know, it's not perfect. It's, you know, a couple people basically putting it all together. So certainly I'm sure everything isn't completely balanced or whatever, like that matters or who cares. But it can just be a fun way. If you've got some 40K troops and you want to use them, hey, you can bring them right into your game of Age of Sigmar.
And if you want to, you can take snapshots of the new Sororitas Battle Tome.
Yes.
That's for the AOS conversion.
Yes. I was going to point out that my particular favorite is the Sisters of Adalyn.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, sorry for stealing that.
No, you're fine. Because like it was when I originally found this was the first thing I went to, I was like, click, yes, this. Bring me the girls. Absolutely. And they're great. It's super fun. You're not gonna get any you don't get any behemoths out of that force. It's just a lot of
I don't know, does Bertha count?
No. She's just got hammers. I converted one of mine to have a gun, so there you go.
Well, I mean, her hammers might count as behemoths.
Sure, she hits real hard. I mean, no doubt about it.
She has big hammers.
She does have big hammers by the standards of 90s models. By the standards of now, she has like teeny tiny little ball peen hammers. But
yeah, let me just jump in from commentary from the chat. I agree with Stu. At this point, like if Tyranids just rolled up into AOS, I'd be like, okay, par for the course.
No, absolutely.
Realm of Eden, they just showed up.
In fact, they already did.
Yes, indeed. As we do have the originator of the ogre Tyranid force here in the show. So
yeah, it's true.
And I felt like yes, correct. So like that just got mentioned. Yes. Eric converted an entire ogre force to be riding Tyranids and to also just have like some Tyranid models that were your models. Like your Dreadmaw is just a straight Tyranid. I don't remember which one, but
Moloch.
Artifacts?
Mod, yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Dread Moloch.
There you go. And they look great. And here's the thing. Watching them play, I didn't walk around and be like, well, that's inappropriate. I was like, no, that's fine. It was like, yeah, that looks right to me. It's a bunch of bugs. Giant bugs.
In AOS.
Like, I've played D&D since the 80s. And guess what? There are lots of giant bug monsters in D&D.
I saw it and I was like, looks like a Dune Reaper to me.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Yes. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. All right. So let's move to some hobby time. Speaking of StoneMonk's awesome hobby, and you're in the middle, you've done some other awesome conversions and paint jobs recently, but what are you working on right now, buddy?
Yeah, so when the Vanguard, Stormcast Eternal Vanguard showed up a couple of months ago, those Grift Chargers just and so I've been putting together a Vanguard force. It was a hard trying to figure out if I was going to use the Stormcast theme, the chapter that I'd made up when AOS hit and I got the starter box, which I like them, but I don't know. It's been weird for me because I tend to be like a make your own, all that kind of stuff. But I also really wanted to anchor. It's really good when you convert things to anchor them in some things that are normal or some that are usual, right? So even though like the Overlords are big and new and brand new, but they're still anchored. Some of that fluff in what dwarves are like, right? Yep. Dwarven are like.
I appreciate the anchor puns with the Kharadron Overlords. Yeah, that's good.
But so I picked the anvils, and so I'm painting anvils of Heldenhammer Force. They're grim in nature, and they are reforged from ancient heroes that still adhere to old ritual and stuff, which is really interesting to me. Black armor is not something I've ever done. The line highlighting on the edges of all the armor, that sort of stuff I've got to get better at it. I'm still working on it. But then that also meant that they're kind of part in death, kind of work good in Shyish. So now I've got like my third force in Shyish. And then they're all of the then the Griff chargers are kind of still like the centerpiece of that model, that line, and so just try to come up with a really striking, bright color scheme to offset the blackness of the anvil's armor. And then I guess the last thing on that conversion is that they're all helmetless. So instead of going some without helmets, this is the first kits that kind of had the helmetless option. And so I just went all helmetless. So I've got Marauder Horseman heads. I've got Dark Eldar Witch Elves heads. I've got the Wildwood Ranger hooded heads. Even some Space Wolf heads are starting in this next group. So just trying to create a very mixed gender, kind of feral and almost monastic feral kind of thing going on. It's weird. I don't even understand it myself, but
well, they're looking
awesome.
great, man. Yeah.
Well, and great. The thing that I haven't been able to show yet very much is that it was weird to me that the Vanguard have the pelts capes and nothing like I know in some of the stories we've had, like the Astral Templars have gone native in some of this in the audiobooks. So I was like, why not save that for the Astral Templars when they come out or whatever? So I've been taking those hunter bodies, which are so dynamic, and I've been making liberators and adjudicators with them. So my whole Anvil's army, for the most part, except for maybe heroes, are going to have be based in the hunter bodies. So nice. Mining a ton of bits to try and, it's going to all be crossbows for the adjudicators because nobody built those. And, but now with Scion Strike, they're pretty awesome. So, or Scions of the Storm. Anyway, that's what I've been doing is the Vanguard force. My one of my death armies is a slow burn in the back, is the Soul Blight. And then starting to get the pieces together for my Havoc army. Gonna have to, Davey and I are trying to go big on that this year, and as we do.
You too, huh?
Yeah, we're gonna be going pretty big too.
Yeah, it was funny. The day after we came back from Havoc, Davey was like, "I've got an idea." So for the last 6 months or whatever, we've just been stewing and thinking and harvesting and all that kind of stuff. So it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be cool.
Well, I'm coming for you, buddy. I just want you to know that.
And arms wide open.
I love it. Tom, what about you, man? What are you working on?
I'm still working on Tzeentch. I had picked up some Tzeentch models just to kind of tinker around with and have some summoning options for my Nurgle, because what better for Nurgle than to enslave some Tzeentch demons with their magic. And so
the other way around.
Nope. Nurgle. So I got I had to make a disc because I wanted a herald that I could have on disc. And so I made a little custom herald, and I'll have pictures up when I'm done. So
why'd you name him Herald?
Yeah, because he's his pink horror is actually just a descendant.
This is Herald 1. Here's Herald 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've just been doing some Tzeentch, and it's different and it's fun. I finished my 10 pink horrors. And so, I'm going to paint through, and they'll be good for my Silver Tower box as well. And so just enjoying some small, one-off painting, trying to take a break from my Nurgle, because I've been painting Nurgle for 6 months, 9 months, actually probably closer to 9 months at this point.
Literally cleanse the palette.
Yeah, seriously. And so I don't know. I need to go back to Nurgle. I'm going to diversify a little bit, I think, for NashCon. So we'll see. And so I will return to them momentarily, I think, in the coming weeks. And then depending on how the Kharadron Overlord release goes, and if I find anything that's super compelling in the book, I'll probably do them as my next transition army. So we'll see. And just ignore this. That doesn't exist. Looking towards new armies.
Sure. Doesn't exist. Well, I know how many unpainted armies there are sitting on the shelves to your left as well, or whatever. Those might be something else again, but sitting somewhere.
Those are very empty now, because I got rid of multiple armies. I'm down to only one of those shelves over there.
How about the glass cabinet to your other direction?
I don't want to talk about that.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's still full minis.
All right. So for me, I finished up the big boy today, or at least we'll call him 99.9% done. So Big Bird is done. He'll be going up tomorrow. His base took about 3 days to put together.
So what he just said is that just took 30 hours to do that base.
No, I didn't say that. It didn't take that long. It just there's a lot of different components that required massive amounts of dry time, right?
So got it.
So
I've been tempted to mount a hair dryer on a thing that I can just put stuff under it, turn it on, and
or like a heat lamp. Like what about a heat lamp?
That's probably a smarter thing.
That's what I do. Yes, I have a heat lamp.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you actually have a heat lamp?
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Glad he thought of it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm glad. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, certain things still just take forever to harden. You know, some things are just partially chemical reactions, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't solve all problems. So, but he should be going up. There's just a couple little touches I want to do with him. So, and then I'll post him up tomorrow. So,
Sweet.
Been forever on this freaking Lord of Change. Oh my God, just an endless amount of hours. But he'll be a competition monster for this year. So, yeah, he was worth the time. In the spare time while he was drying, because there was lots of individual time, I started working on my Fate Master, which I wanted to turn into a Zangor. So he could be a Zangor shaman or an actual normal Fate Master. So it's just the old kit, but he has a little head swap, gave him a little different arm. And so yeah, he's here. He'll ride around on his little disc. I think that head looks nice on him.
Yeah.
He came out fun. So
I'm thinking about making some Zangor Chaos Warriors because you get a bunch of heads in the Zangor box, and and you get a bunch of extra arms. You could
get a ton of extra arms.
Arms, and then and even arms and shields are from the 40K boxes are super cheap on eBay. So 10 sets of arms are $5, arms and shields, and so you could easily buy that for $5, cut all the hands and shields off because of how close they are to the body, and have fully pimped out Zangor Chaos Warriors fairly easily.
Yeah, I assume you'd want to use them as Chaos Warriors still.
Yeah, I would be using them as Chaos Warriors. Yep.
The Tzeentch intimidates the hell out of me as an army and aesthetic. However, part of me wants to start just a small force so that I can paint the 40K Ahriman model as a Fate Master. So I think
I do.
Freaking centerpiece for just a not using the big stumpy monsters, but a small, or what are they called? Acolyte force with a Fate Master, but have an epic Fate Master.
Yeah, that Ahriman model is one of the
I've
there
seen
are
some
two
great
models in
conversions.
40K right now that I keep looking at every time I go to the store, and one is Ahriman and the other is Saint Celestine. If I could get Saint Celestine by herself, I would already own her. I mean, I know I can't off bid sites or whatever, but I don't purposely go out and seek it. It's just when I go into the game store, I walk by that box and I'm like,
yeah,
because I don't have any purpose for the Witch Hunter or for the giant insect mechanical man.
You could probably move those. You could probably sell those pretty easily.
That's work.
It is.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's just, if it was free, sure. If I could just literally walk it up to the counter and just be here, open this and charge me for only the one. You can resell the rest. Sure, I would do it. But I don't think that's happening. All right. So there's mine. So he'll be done tomorrow probably, and so will the, ironically, after not having anything for 2 weeks, I'll have 2 models on the same day. So that's funny. Let's talk about some narrative events, guys.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. So, what I want to start out with is kind of I want to talk about Neo in general, right? So, StoneMonk, I was kind of hoping you could kick us off and just talk about the Neo. I'll call it movement, I guess.
Yeah.
And what it represents and why it is a thing and what the Neos are hoping to achieve.
Yeah. So before we I'll give you a little history lesson.
This
is literally
ready.
3 months history. So I got a request from Sean Houghton of Hobby Hammer fame and the Realm Hoppers, and he had kind of put a call out to people that are supporting narrative in the hobby. So obviously the Raw team, himself and Kai Baker, Steve Herner here in the States, some of the podcasts that were supporting and talking about narrative stuff. And we just got into a WhatsApp group. And what we just started talking about was how do we promote narrative? Right now, the collective community is centered. I mean, we're centered around the events that we go to, and that and those events are created by the individuals that create them. And so our TOs are very influential people in our community. But that means that, again, the people that are running those events, that whatever they want to be running is what kind of drives the community. And so part of our thinking was that and seeing the success of Raw and seeing the success of Realm Hoppers and Holy Wars and Holy Havoc, or what Steve wants those to become, it really kind of sent a signal to us, is the way that you promote narrative is by promoting narrative events. Mm-hmm. And the way you get more narrative events is by supporting, sharing knowledge with, and encouraging people to run narrative events. Right. So that's the logic of kind of what started stirring. And so we were like, hey, of course we're not TOs, right? The term that we use is TOs. So what do you call somebody who runs a narrative event? And so that's where, we had a couple of different ideas, and, we sought, brand consultants and high powered attorneys to trademark, that sort of thing.
Brought in a major international branding firm. Yes.
Yep. And so the narrative event organizer was a very simple, and NEO is a real, an acronym that easy to roll off the tongue. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where it started first. And you saw that acronym pop up on people's Twitter handles, and it's really, so it's kind of twofold. Like I said, one, and if I'll put it this way, as a group, we said, well, let's, what do we value? What's the purpose of us getting together and talking about this? And so we did write up kind of a little manifesto. Now I'm going to preface this by saying is that the way we look at ourselves is just kind of like the first people that stepped on this plane, this NEO thing, and said, hey, let's just create some guidelines. But I want to be very clear that anybody can call themselves a NEO. Anybody can decide to run a narrative event and they're part of the club. It's not exclusive. It is by the number of people who run it, right? If you claim it and there's only a few people who claim it, then it's more exclusive. But it's something that isn't owned by anybody. Mm-hmm. So the group of people that I was mentioning, we might consider ourselves founders, but we're not owners. There's no sign up. Nobody owns neowarhammer.com or that sort of stuff.
They do now.
Well, good luck with
someone
that.
Out there.
Good luck with that. Let me see if I can pull it up. And I had it up in just a second, but I had it under a different account. But so there's just kind of three things that we decided, and I probably already said them because they're so simple. But the thought is we'd put these down to help give some people some guidance on what NEOs are, and what NEO is, and then be able to kind of release it, right? That if in a year the group of NEOs is, the group of NEOs that is NEOs now aren't the majority, then other people can decide what this becomes, et cetera. So the first part of the manifesto is that we need to inspire players to embrace narrative play in Age of Sigmar. That's worth getting people excited about. The second is to produce a collective fountain of knowledge and resources. So the blog post that I shared with you is the first kind of experiment with that. And then encourage more narrative events by encouraging more NEOs, and coalescence is the first experiment in that. And so, yeah, I mean, that's what the idea out of this group was. But I guarantee that since the word the acronym NEO has been created, there's probably a dozen other ideas about what it is or isn't that do.
So tell us about coalescence.
Exactly. Like that's, I think, the perfect segue. So that's awesome. It was a good history lesson. I feel like we all are better people and have learned a lot.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's been like 3 months of this kind of conversation. So coalescence. So like I said, the key for us, the thing that we think is going to bring about a balance in the force in our community to get all three ways of playing kind of supported and thriving is events and event organizing. But how do we kind of activate the narrative sleeper cells, that have been hiding out amidst all of the match play stuff? How do we get them going? And so so last year when AOS was first starting and whatnot, I had a few conversations with Tyler Emerson, and I was just like, wouldn't it be cool? Because I can't go to these big events, and we were joking about Adepticon, but like I don't do a lot of those. My work and family, all this kind of stuff, I don't get out. So how could I be a part of something bigger? And so we had this idea for like a multi FLGS event, a couple of different locations, let's say 4 locations, and make it something that, through the time zones, it's connected, all this kind of stuff. Well, again, I was the guy who's sitting on the sideline going, I'm starting a podcast. I'm doing this thing over here. I don't have time to be an event organizer, or it's not my thing, I guess. But after I, got plugged in with the Neos and we're all talking, I shared this idea, and then Sean went bonkers over it and turned it on its head. And then the other, raw guys are like, well, what if we flip it this way and this way? And so it really came, the ideas worth doing are the ideas that get you excited, right? And that's when we talk about any event organizer, run the event that you want to participate in because you're excited about it and you want to do that. So we're like, okay, how do we do this event? What's the key? And the key is getting as many people to sign up and raise their hand and run a tiny event, a micro local event, or in Tom's case, a not so micro event.
It's going to be micro. It's not going to be really large.
It's not going to be biggest.
Let's hope that it doesn't get large, because I'm new at this, and it's going to get ugly if I have way too many people.
Sure.
I'll make Vince do work then.
Hard pass.
So that was the first thing, is that we needed a way to charge people to take ownership. And so the way we thought we could do that was by saying, hey, you're not doing it alone. You have the support of the founders, the godfathers of narrative in our young game here, with the Raw crew and the Realm Helpers crew and the Holy Wars team, and that seemed to get people really excited. I mean, you throw in the idea of a global event, right, where we're in a community that's very divided by regions and space.
Mm-hmm. At least in America.
In America, yeah, definitely. But we feel like the UK is part of our community, but we're divided from them as well, right? Mm-hmm. And so this was a way to kind of just say, hey, can we make it feel less divided? And so on June 10th, which was a day that we plucked out of the air, because you got to go, right? You just got to pick something. You got to go,
right?
And that's another tenet of kind of running these events, and the people that are running events just pick dates and they go. And so we're doing that. And we got a great response. Right now we have 28 Neos signed up to run events around the world on that day. I would say about half of those, or a third of those, are United States. Another quarter are the UK. And then we've got Norway, Canada, Australia, Sweden, and a number of other spots. And so first of all, it's been really cool just seeing people get excited about it, and people that they've wanted to run an event for a long time, and this just gives them a reason to do it because they're not alone, and they've got support. So
tell me what it's going to look like the day of for these local events. Yeah. So what is it, as the team, kind of representing their voice, or what did you guys imagine? What do you want this to look like when people showed up for their first narrative?
So that's a really good question. And I'm going to do my best not to in this next week. Let me share a couple of things really quick that have been really cool with that. Is one, the community has really kind of responded to that, but GW also responded to that. I want to give some props there. And one of the things that they've done is they want to support us in helping us review some of our rules, review some of the narrative that we're about to release, to get people excited about it. And in fact, one of the cool things will be, hopefully, if we get it right, the narrative of this event will be captured inside the official canon, down the road. So
wow.
So yeah, I mean, it's a small way for GW to support it, but it feels big from this end of it, right?
Totally.
So just a lot of response and good conversation all around, and so that some of the guys coming back from this past weekend from GW getting that chance to walk across the catwalk are just very excited. I don't have any details.
Yeah.
But they're just very excited for the way GW is going to be supporting narrative, and Coalescence is one of those ways. So the day of, well, let me talk a little. One of the things we hope to do I guess, Tom, since you're a Neo for this,
I am.
You're asking this because this is something that you really want to know.
No, it's totally true. I'm running an event. Let's do this. And then I was like, I have no idea what this is going to look like.
All right, I'm gonna do my best without spoiling any of the narrative. But one of the things that as this conversation about narrative has come up is what differentiates this from other types of events. Because the very worst thing you can have happen is have somebody show up at an event, expect one thing and get another thing, and just spoil the whole day for everybody.
Yeah, and I think that's real quick. I want to jump in and just let me hit on something. And that would be, you're explaining this. It's going to be easy for people to just frame this like, oh, okay, so there's a lot of tournaments going on at the same time around the world, right? That's not correct, but it would be easy to jump to that conclusion, right? Because that's the only frame of reference we've really had for this sort of thing. So differentiate it for me, right? That sort of thing.
So the language I use for this is signals. The events have to put out signals that communicate to and what they're in for. So one of the things that is hard with a global event, which is an awesome idea, and part of when I originally thought it could be a match play. I wasn't thinking narrative the first time I thought of it. And this is where the Neo group was like, yes, this is a narrative. It's because the top players at all of these different places can't play each other. There's no top of the top of the top.
Right.
And so in essence, you've got to kind of a local kind of win to be more meaningful. And if it's just a bunch of winners, then it's not as meaningful. So it has to be, and for this event, we want there to both be a feeling that the activities of the day affected a global narrative is the most important thing. But then second, that they affected their local narrative, like something happened and they actually had a say in how it happened locally. Season of War was a really great kind of global campaign, but what you did was very solo, and you could play some games against other people, but that wouldn't necessarily tip the scales locally on who won. If somebody else was a prolific painter and did it, all in their house, they could tip the scales, and nobody's interacting with that. So we're not as big as Season of War. There won't be as many people participating. But we want that local day to feel like, yes, we had control over what happened locally. And that will have, it may be a drop, it'll be one of 27, but we had an effect on the global kind of event. And so that balance of having that tension there, we wanted to reach. So on the day of, so here's some other signals, right? There's lots of signals. And part of what we want to do is not overload with too many signals. Some of the feedback from Raw, which was a fantastic, well-attended and, rave review kind of event, was that they had so much going on that, they wanted long games in order to kind of let you have time to immerse in it. But then there was a lot of things to do in between games, buy stuff at the store, read narratives, see what happened, that sort of thing. A lot to manage. Now those guys are pros, and so they're cutting some things back, but I mean, they're entertainers almost, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, they were very interactive with the way the things unfolded during the day. And your point about expectations and setting it up, right, is well said, especially there, because they were very clear before the event that, like, this isn't going to be like a match play tournament. There's going to be changes and things will move on the fly. And, like there will be calls based on what's happening in the story, and there'll be turnabout, swings and roundabouts, I guess, right? Since we're talking about the event. So there you go.
Yeah. So so then you're balancing that with, okay, the reality of, hey, we're asking people to step up for the first time and run an event. It probably can't be raw, right? It can't be that model. Mm-hmm. And this is where it kind of gets to that kind of shades of narrative. There's narrative can be as simple as, hey, I gave my general a name, and all the way up to, between games. And this is, I'm going to give a shout out to Aaron Bastian over at Nova, who ran probably one of the first narrative events on a big scale or at a major event. And in between rounds, he was having meetings with the players to say, well, what happened and what's going to happen next? Right. And they're writing the story as they're going. It's very, awesome. Very RPG, D&D kind of stuff. So there's a huge spectrum. And so we had to kind of try to boil it down and keep in some signals, some mechanics that signal that this is a narrative event, but that would be easy to manage and simple, right? You guys have probably, from my praise of the AOS rule set to, what we try and do with Mortal Realms is we try and keep it super simple, because it's, I don't know, I do that in my business too. I boil everything down to like, its simplest thing, and I'm like happy. So for instance, the event, the day of, is you're going to start your game with 1,500, your first game with 1,500 points. And your last game with 500 points. We have a de-escalation throughout the day. So one of the signals of a narrative event is different sized games. And it's kind of a counter signal that it's not a match play event, because you're not taking one list and pushing it against other people's one list and seeing who's best at that list. So different sized games is a signal of a less competitive match or narrative event. So that's one thing.
That's funny because even when Vince and I have traditionally talked about match play events, we've talked about even doing like running competitive match play events with different point values. So it's interesting that you guys see that as a distinctive of narrative.
Well, and I would say it's like anything else. It's based on what exists, right? If you guys were to do that and run a match play event and have done that for a couple of years, it probably would be a signal of, or one of the signals of match play, because there's a precedent. Currently, there's not a precedent there, and so for us, it's unclaimed ground, I guess.
Certainly, sure. And it's awesome. It's a great idea. I love it.
Well, obviously, completely behind you. I agree. So it's just more interesting. It's challenging. You have different size, different forces, different expectations. Yeah, just different stuff going on.
And coalescence, we do know that like escalation is a thing in narrative, right? Where you start with a small number of points and go to a larger number of points. Because this event is going to be brutal, it's de-escalation. You end up with fewer models at the end of the event because they've died. So there's a story being told in that, the decrease of model count. Another signal, and kind of a big one. This one is probably a big one to spoil, is that the scenarios will have a victory condition to say, hey, you've got a thing you need to do on the battlefield. But there'll be a number of secondary objectives that along with that scenario victory condition, make up a scorecard. And you score on that card. So if you have, if say you've got 8 people at the store and you've got 2 people per allegiance, and you got 2 death, 2 chaos, 2 destruction and 2 order. There's going to be an order scorecard, and in the games, both of the order players are trying to fill that scorecard, so they may be trying to do different things. So they're maybe one's concentrating on winning the objective on the table, and maybe the other one's trying to behead the hero or do something heroic with their units. And so it becomes even more of a team sport
Right.
to try and fill that scorecard. Which is another way to kind of diminish one player's personal success and fill that with a group's success. And one of the ways that we're looking at, and this is experimental and hoping for some good feedback on it. Now, we don't want to put the onus on there's a way we want to try and simplify by using a mechanic, and let's discuss it if you guys have ideas. Instead of putting the onus on the Neo to make sure that all the players coming are balanced, right? That you have 2 of this and 2 of that and 2 of that and 2 of that, which if you've got 4 players, maybe you don't have that even possibility. If you are part of an allegiance that is an underdog, meaning you have less people playing in your allegiance than others, you
show up and you're the only death player, for example.
Yep, you're the only death player. One of the mechanics we're looking at, it's an underdog mechanic of being able to black out one of the scorecard items that you claim, but nobody else can claim. So it starts not only giving yourself a point, because and the story would help explain that a little bit. The idea is that these armies are performing pretty heroic things, and if you're the only one standing up for, that's pretty baller. So not only are you getting a plus in your scorecard, but you're giving all the other allegiances a minus, and so that kind of becomes a multiplier. So that's, and if you can work really hard and win your score high on your scorecard each time, then maybe that individual now we're back to an individual's success, but it gives somebody who wants to play the odd thing in a group a shot. So.
Sure. The other option, and just again, I'm just rapid firing this off the top of my head, but the other option is you let armies declare different allegiances.
Sure.
By that, what I mean is you show up with a Stormcast army, right? But death is imbalanced and order is overbalanced or something like that, right? There's 4 order players and 1 death person. Yeah, okay, my Stormcast have been tainted by Nagash, right? And they were stationed in Shyish too long, right? And so they've absorbed too much death energy, and upon they all died in some massive battle, and they were there so long, Nagash managed to get a hold of their souls and actually reforge them into their armor and prevent them from ending up going back to Azir, right? So now they're his personal force of Stormcast. Cool.
Yep.
Yep. There you go. And it seems like that could be really fun too, because I love the idea of cross-factional stuff, right? I love when you get that unexpected of this thing you thought was here, the noble savage, or the good guys turned evil, the bad guys turned good, and so on and so forth. I love those switches, and I think those are innately narrative, right?
Yep. And I hope that Tom. Let's talk about Tom without talking to Tom.
Sure.
I hope Tom.
I mean, that's what I do all the time.
Oh, totally.
We want to empower Tom to make his players, let them play what they want to play.
Right.
So if they want to, if they feel left out and don't have a chance as a solo and feel that, then they can join another allegiance.
Those dark elf players, hey man, they want to roll. If they want to roll destruction and just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah. And so then but if somebody really is they're the only destruction player and they want to play destruction and WoW for Gork Mork, then let them. Like how can we make that something that's not viable in a competitive sense, but viable in a I'm in it, I'm in the game, kind of way. So that's something we'll test out. And again, what's nice too is that we'll test this out. We'll see how these things work. We'll get feedback from the Neos, and we'll improve, right? We'll the other thing that we're trying to do with these little things is that they're all modular, and you can take them and leave them as you want.
Right.
And they can be an example for other people who want to play narrative games and either add this in or take it out. One of the cool things that's happening at South Coast, which started in our Neo group as well, it's a narrative takeover of South Coast GT,
which is hilarious.
Yeah, and we talked with Heelan and Russ Veal and stuff about it. Like we didn't want to. Again, we aren't anti-match play at all, but we just want equal rights, right? No, so we talked to him because we didn't want to just hijack it, right, and say, "Ha, we got you." But it's just a layer of narrative that you can play at South Coast GT Games. When you're at the event playing games, you can try and do these things, check them off on your own, and you can post them on TGA, and it becomes its own kind of spin. So it's again modular. You can layer it on. Anything that we provide for the Coalescence Neos, they can strip it out if they feel uncomfortable with it, or add something if they feel like that'll help it out. So hopefully, maybe they won't feel comfortable doing that, but hopefully we won't stand in their way.
I like it. I think overall, the most important element to this, it's the thing that I hit on at the top of the show. And I think that there's good reason to have matched play games look more similar across the board than they are different. Okay. And I'm not trying to say there should be like one cookie cutter truth of matched play. I'm saying that I think there are good reasons to have them look more alike than different, if that makes sense, right? That there's that amongst sort of matched play hardcore tournaments, that there is good reasons to have them sort of have a consistency across the country, around the world. That doesn't mean identical or cookie cutter. Please do not take me to be saying that. Individuality, different scenarios, different rules are great, but there should be a
genetically related.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to say it, right? Whereas with the narrative events, it's so much more liberating in that there exactly what you said. There's this huge modular toolkit, right? And I don't think people should take anything off the table. You mentioned Nova last year and the big narrative event at Nova, and there'll be a narrative event again this year. And it had in between planning sessions, and it really did, as you mentioned, feel a lot of times like a game of like an RPG, right?
Yeah.
And brought a lot of those elements in. And look, let's be very truthful here. Warhammer grew out of the desire to combine RPG and wargame elements. That's why Warhammer exists. Yep. It grew out of people playing D&D and wanting to emphasize the wargaming and the fight and those kind of battle elements of it. Back in the 80s. So this isn't in fact the creation of something new. This is the rediscovery of the deepest roots of this game, right?
And let's give credit to the current Games Workshop team for adding it in the General's Handbook. Like,
yep,
certainly, Raw was happening, and Hobby Hammer was Sean was doing online narrative campaigns prior to that coming out. But the fact that GW signaled, hey, we want to encourage this, really emboldened that sub portion of the community to say, let's do more. Let's figure out how to do more.
Well, and it was a big topic of discussion, at Adepticon, of like mentioning that it's going to be a big focus. They want to do more and build the narrative, make sure they're supporting the narrative community. Like, hence, as we saw the next weekend or whatever, however it worked out, the narrative group, as we mentioned multiple times, coming in right to the homestead.
I talked to Ben Johnson at Adepticon, during kind of that Saturday evening get together. And so one of the things we talked about is he just, he had mentioned this, and I really want to give them credit. This was a very intentional design decision. They released the game without points. Okay. Like, we didn't have match play points, and that was a very intentional studio decision.
I love that.
Because they needed to put the reset button.
Yep. Yeah, and we've talked about it, if they'd come out with match play points and then later narrative stuff, or if we came out all at the same time, we would have just probably glossed over narrative because that wasn't our culture, and we weren't, I absolutely agree.
They were rebuilding.
Talk to you about it.
Yeah, they were rebuilding a culture from the ground up. And the issue is that had they released points with the core AOS game, we just would have slid right from 8th edition into AOS and played AOS like we played 8th edition.
Yep.
And I think they realized that they needed to, the rules for narrative and all this stuff, open play, that was always in all of those books. Go crack open your 8th edition book. Yep. There are rules that talk about these other kind of ways to play, and there's campaign books and all that stuff exists.
Yeah.
But the cult of the matched play, this is my language, not theirs. So don't misunderstand. I don't want to misquote them. This is me saying this, but the cult,
because that was a little bombastic.
Yeah, it is. It is over the top, and I will own this. But the cult of the official, the cult of the matched play, point play, competitive play, it was, and to a sense, it is still strong with GW.
Yeah.
And they needed a reset button, and I think they successfully achieved that. And it was a dangerous proposal that they did of releasing a game like this, but it worked.
Yep.
Because we now have a thriving kind of interwoven culture of different play styles.
Yeah, and look, let's be fair, okay?
No.
All right, cool. Let's not be fair. No, let's be fair. The match play group will always be bigger. There will always be a larger segment of people, vocal people, whatever, but just a larger segment of people who are inclined to use the majority of rules in the match play section of the book. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, right? At all. The point is that there is also an underserved market out there, right? And the fact that it might be less players doesn't still make it valuable, right? And it also doesn't mean that it's two non-overlapping Venn diagram, or it's not two non-overlapping sets.
They're not they're not exclusive.
Yeah, it's not mutually exclusive people. There are the lessons of these narrative events can also easily be imported into more traditional match play stuff, exactly as you were just talking about with South Coast, right? Where it's not even part of the official thing, yet it's still happening.
Yeah, it's right? it's like Backstreet or Dark Street streetcar racing, right? Narrative is the underground.
Yes, there you go.
Totally.
The cutting edge.
So are you Vin Diesel in this scenario then?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay, got it.
As long as I get to be Paul Walker with the awesome bleached hair.
Yeah, totally.
God, there's such a mean joke I could say right now. All right, we'll move on past that.
I do want to challenge the premise a little bit, though, because I do think we've got, of the Warhammer community, there's a visible vocal portion of it that isn't the majority.
Sure.
And a lot of that vocal visible community is definitely centered around events and which have historically been primarily match play. I think that part of that is that, and to your premise of that it will always be bigger, is that there's a ton of match play players that, Raw was made up of match play players. If you go by what they'd attended last, right?
Sure.
And same with Realm Hoppers is, I think people want both. Think people want to move between those and feed all of those different parts of their own hobby. And then I think we've got a bunch of the hidden community that doesn't go to events, doesn't hop out to those because they're not interested in competitive, that they're maybe more interested in hobby, or our competitive events still run great hobby, which is fantastic, but maybe they're more interested in a less intimidating, like competitive kind of space.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, depending on the narrative event, if you ran a more RPG kind of event, take some kind of faith and the right attitude to step into, which I've had this conversation with a few people that are like trying to serve a match play minded community with RPG style narrative. And it can be like oil and water because it's maybe two sides of the spectrum that don't quite hit. However, so for instance, for Coalescence, we thought about using Path to Glory composition rules. That Sean, I mentioned Sean because he's just a powerhouse in creating content for narrative, but he created a Path to Glory for every faction that didn't have one in the General's Handbook. And so we thought, hey, we could do that because it's another, right?
Yep, another signal. But
it's also almost everything narrative is a little bit harder than just playing match play. Everything just takes a little more effort. And so the more things that you stack in there becomes that complexity. And so for Coalescence is about introducing new Neos into running narrative events, but also players into attending their very first narrative event, perhaps. And so keeping some things familiar, like points, is super handy and easy for narrative players too. But like you said, it also came after some of these other ideas. So it's a little part of our conversation has been worried about, should we use match play points, or are we going to be, cutting our nose to spite our face because it won't be strong enough signal that this is narrative, right? There's a concern about using too many match play things because it won't be narrative enough to really feel different. And that's the tension. How much feels narrative? How many narrative signals do you add until it feels more narrative than matched?
Sure. And I think that's like, I'll tell you, as somebody who does a fair amount of narrative games just at home, but we always use points. And I think the reason for that is exactly what you said. It just makes things easy, right? That doesn't mean we don't change other rules or give some people more points or whatever, right? The situation happens to be. It's just easy shorthand, right? That ends up being what it is. So we don't have to waste time doing other stuff and can get quicker to playing, right? We can spend more time on like the story or the scenario or whatever's going on that actually does serve the narrative. That just lets us shortcut to say, okay, because we're doing this and this is the story, you have this and this special rule, and we have this and this special rule, and now we can play, right? And we don't have to go deeper than that. So to me, the narrative is the story taking the preeminence over the rules, right? And the presence or absence of points in no way that I don't know anything about the question I just asked by saying, right?
Yep. Well, and I think that's different for everybody. How easy is it for them to slip into narrative, or how difficult it is for them to slip into narrative? And I think it's based on each individual's experience. And so, I mean, I'm the same way. We can, I can go with, Davey. We can sit down. We can look at the battlefield, decide where we're at, decide what we're fighting over, put some meaning behind it. We've got characters that we've played before, and it's super easy to slip into that because he and I have that social contract to do that easily. Right. When you show up with strangers and it's hard to talk across the table and introduce your general, or you feel a little weird doing that because you don't know if they're into that really or not. And so it's kind of like how much sugar, spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. How do you sweeten the pot enough to make, I don't know if that's the right term. How do you
flavor it such that it's palatable to everybody, but not overpowering to some?
Yep. And this is going to be I would say it's going to end, even with what I've described, I think it's going to be somewhat narrative light. And I hope the feedback, it can help us get fine tune that where we need to go. But, I mean, how do we do it in enough stuff to, again, like you said, like get a little bit out of, and really what we're trying to do is just and this isn't an offense because competitive play is fantastic, but for this, everyone at the very minimum needs to step a little bit out of the idea of winning. And it's kind of like you have to do enough stuff narratively to like get people out of a mindset of I personally myself am going to win at everything, right? And so if group scoring is enough to do that and say, oh, we're working as a team, and so I make fun a little bit because I'm thinking, well, what if I was a general in Age of Sigmar? What would my primary goal be? To win at things, right? To kill everything. Like narratively, winning is okay, but making sure that but stories don't always go that way, and not everybody wins. So how do you have fun and win even without scoring the most, right? How do you win at this game without being podium 1, 2, 3? And I think narrative is an answer to that. You always come away feeling fantastic because the story is what you were aiming for, not the score.
Yeah, yep. That's good.
That's an excellent point. I think we've said a lot about this and about the upcoming event. Obviously, as the board behind you says, June 10th. That's the weekend. Oh, there it is. Yeah, indeed.
So, Vince, you're coming down on June 10th, right?
Apparently, that's the case. I'm going to certainly try.
No, there is no try. Stop the subjunctive. Leave the dark side of the subjunctive behind and move into the indicative, my friend. You will be down here.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to certainly try. So what I'll say is, as we come down here to the end, is there anything else you want to say about the narrative events? Like we mentioned at the beginning, the resources are going to be there. I really highly, the links are down there. I really highly recommend, even beyond Coalescence, that you go check out the link for the blog, because it has so much great information to get you started for running narrative events. But I wanted to kind of turn it over to you. Is there anything else you wanted to hit on here from a narrative event perspective?
I would love, first and foremost, to give a shout out to all the people that are contributing to Coalescence in bringing not only the concepts but also writing the blog posts to support Neos, and that's Aaron Bostian from the Nova event, Alexander Nygaard from Fjordhammer, Dan Mitchell from Tales of Sigmar, Davey Calkins, my partner at Mortal Realms, Elric Edge from Rolling Bad, Jimbo 9 Jimbo, the most famous of the Raw guys, Kai Baker, with him and Sean Houghton run the Realms at War events, Mitzi from Raw, Ming Lee from Raw, and Steve Foote from Raw, Steve Herner from the Holy Havoc team, Holy Wars team, and Tyler Mingle from everybody knows Tyler. I don't need to give him any more airtime than he already has.
We love you, Tyler.
Yeah, absolutely. And then and myself and we're, again, this is just a group that's talking about this event. This isn't exclusive club or anything like that. You can be and to the 28 people who have raised their hand, including you, Tom, thank you for stepping out and taking a chance. And we're going to do our best. We're going to be here to support you and make this. There is a chance. Now, this is the one thing the one shot across the bow that I'll give to the match play guys, is that potentially we could have on June 10th, if not this year, next year, the most games of Warhammer being played ever on a single day.
Oh yeah, because
sure, in recorded events,
yeah, because the reality is that like SCG, like South Coast, all those, those are this biggest single events where you might have like 300 players, 150 tables.
Yep.
But this is a worldwide event. Like we're talking, potentially 30 different sites.
Yep. And potentially some of the GW stores across the country in the world. What? Anyway, so
there we go. Well, that is some big stuff, and I agree. I want to see it all successful, because to me, here's the other thing about this sort of diffuse setup. If you ever want to build other big events in any way, we've got to have more events like this across the world, right? Because it's going to be hard for casual players or new players or anything like that. You don't want to roll into a 200, 300 person event as your first event ever. Yep. Some people do, but a lot of people don't want to do that, right? But it's much easier to go to the shop around the corner and participate in something bigger than yourself and feel like by just going to your normal store, you're part of this much larger thing. And that's cool. That gets you hooked. Right?
We have the potential to reach all of the garages and basements and local game stores and help them feel part of the larger community.
And not only that, like, because you now are filling up these sites with people playing this game, this may actually like then engender new people into the hobby itself. Like, so for example, at Coalescence Lexington, I heard that Vince is going to be running demo games for players that have never played Warhammer.
Oh my God, where did you hear this horrible rumor?
Paint classes.
Different Vince. He's talking about his other friend Vince, I believe. So I'll be interested to meet up with this guy. It's nice to finally talk to him. It's not anybody on this show. That's for sure. All right. So very good stuff. So Mr. StoneMonk, thank you as always, sir. I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you talking Coalescence with us. Tom, as always, thank you very much. We're going to talk about narrative more on the road to Coalescence and the other big narrative events you mentioned. I promise you this will not be the last time this year, or probably even in the next couple months, that we touch on this subject. It's going to come up frequently. And as we get closer to Coalescence, obviously it'll be showing up more in news items and stuff like that. So you're gonna see a lot of talk and discussion about it.
Yeah, and I will have more information on the Coalescence Lexington site that we will be having on June 10th alongside everyone else. The aim is for a 30-person event. I don't know. I don't want to go too much larger than that because this is my first time around, but that's what we're aiming at. And so if you're within driving distance, come on down. I will be there. Vince will be there. I think David Griffin from Nashville is going to be coming up.
We'll be publicizing where those events are, or where people have help people kind of find those locations. The first part of the story is that there's an artifact that people are searching for, and so these locations are potential places to find those artifacts, and those that actually hold the event on that day will be a confirmed site, finding of those artifacts. So, yeah.
Very nice.
More to come, friends. More to come.
Oh.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, both very much. And, of course, thank you, all of you out there, for watching. Always greatly appreciate it. And, as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.